Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. The Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodleknits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Pattern Design Circle podcast. As always, I'm so excited to be here in your ear chatting about all the things. So today we are talking about how I am planning this year, 2025. And yes, it is already February. And yes, I am saying planning in still present tense. So if you haven't planned yet this year, if you already can tell that there's not enough flexibility in your plans for this year, if you typically just hate planning, if you're like, I'm way too busy, I don't have time to do this kind of thing, this episode is really talking about, okay, how am I doing it now in this new phase of my life where I have less time to focus, less mental space to focus. I don't have the ability to just sit down for 2 days and plan like I typically would, all that kind of stuff. So I've always loved planning. If you haven't listened to the past episodes on planning and you'd like to, last year, I believe it was, I did a series of planning podcast episodes. But this is going to be a little bit different. So really, it's meant to be as an inspiration that when you hear people talking about planning and goal setting, you take what works for you and you leave the rest. This hopefully will give you a few ideas on things that maybe will be helpful for you. You don't have to follow this step by step. You don't have to, do any of this. Maybe just this conversation sparks some new ideas and you're like, oh, okay, that doesn't work for me, but something that would is maybe this little spinoff, doing it like this, that kind of thing. So, yeah, obviously my planning has looked a little different this year. Last year was also different because I was pregnant, I was sick. Very sick at the beginning of the year, and I didn't know if and when I was going to start feeling better. And fortunately, I didn't put a whole lot of pressure on myself. I thought I was going to get a whole lot more done during pregnancy than I did. I ended up being kind of sick and miserable the whole pregnancy. But that is also part of why I'm approaching this year's planning and goal setting the way that I am, because it really does feel like I'm kind of coming in with a fresh start. I kind of had slowed things down a little bit from feeling so burnt out, and then being pregnant, I wasn't able to do much, and then early postpartum wasn't able to do much, and then coming back postpartum has been a bit slow. And now I have maybe 20-minute increments to work with throughout the day. If I'm lucky, maybe 40-minute naps. If I'm really lucky, maybe an hour and a half, but I never know that I actually have that much time. So kind of anticipating that he'll be awake 20 to 30 minutes in. So yeah, this is kind of, I guess, in a sense, it's piecemealed. In a sense, it's also been just me adjusting and going with the flow to create something that works for me so that I still have this vision that I'm following. Now, part of the reason that I love planning and goal setting so much is that it really does help me know, what am I focusing on? I don't know if it's ADHD, because I have ADHD. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. I've always said that my planner, like even back in middle school, my planner is like my lifesaver. If I didn't have a planner, I'd be so lost. Part of that perhaps is because there's always 300 million things going on in my head. 2 billion ideas that I want to work forward on. And so then really knowing, okay, what am I actually wanting and needing to focus on right now to achieve these bigger picture things that I want to do. Um, so I hear from a lot of people, they're like, um, I just have too many ideas, or I'm neurodivergent, so I can't plan. Um, and I can attest to you can, and maybe it will actually be more helpful for you. Now, this year, I am not putting so many deadlines on myself. I have scheduled some specific things, um, but even the concept of what exactly am I going to get done this year, I'm not so set on that. I'm more set on the idea of I'm making progress. These are the things that I want to work towards. These are the priorities that I have. These are kind of the order that I want to work on them through. Um, I have an idea of when, like which quarter they would happen. But honestly, it's only the first half of the year that I kind of have clarity on. And then there'll probably be some adjusting. As always, we never, I mean, I guess I haven't ever met a person who has 100% followed through with their plans for the whole year. That's a huge part of planning and goal setting is adjusting and readjusting and realigning and checking in and reflecting on all of those things. So, okay, let's go ahead and dive in. Like I mentioned, nap times can be pretty short, so I'm going to try to make these podcast episodes shorter. Um, we'll see how that works, right? I know that I love to yibber yabber, but I think it'll be good for me and it will be good for you because I don't want to be taking more of your time than necessary. I honestly really hope that you find these podcast episodes extremely valuable, 100% worth your time. But also, I know you're busy, like me. I know that we have lots going on. So, um, alrighty. So the first place that I started was, it first was in my notebook, but then I moved it on to an app. I'll talk more about that. Was mind mapping. So especially because I'm coming back to business now, kind of with a little bit of freshness. It's been a little bit a while. So I just like dumped all of the ideas that I've been wanting to work on, dumped them all on paper. Well, I tried to do that. It was like, in a notebook. So then it's like 3, 4 spreads. I had separated it into like different parts of my business. And I've done this before. I've done a lot of different things similar to this where it's like dumping everything out. Perhaps you remember that I've talked about the index card solution. So that is where you put a different idea on each index card, and then you can organize the index cards based on how much time they're going to take, and then like you can color code them with a highlighter. You can color code them based on what resources you still need, what you can actually take action on right now. And oh, sorry, someone's stirring. um, And then you can organize them based on when you actually want to get them done. You can pull, you know, this month or this week or this quarter and put it up at the front of your box, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I've done that in the past. I really like that because I can lay it all out on the floor, organize it, get an idea of, okay, I've got this part for, my brand new pattern designs. This is what I have for maybe promotions that I'm going to do. Have this for pattern design circle. Um, you know, I have these free events that I want to do. I have these behind the scenes things. I can have it all laid out and see it all together. But I can't just leave it out on my floor all year, or it would drive me bananas if I did. So then I have to put it away back into the box. So anyway, I started the content map or the mind map on the notebook. That's helpful, but you can only go so far with that, right? So then I discovered ClickUp now has a mind map um, feature. So ClickUp is a free app that I use for um, organizing ideas, for setting deadlines on things, for outlining all the different steps to achieve a goal, all those kinds of things. And so I just created it's a new workspace thingy. Um, it's called mapping. I think. Let's see if I can. If I do this, oh, whiteboard. They call it a whiteboard. Um, so there you can like it's just this big, huge space that can keep going and going and going. You can put sticky notes on there. You can attach it to tasks and assign deadlines. You can do all sorts of stuff. So what I did was, all right, I have my business as a whole just in the middle. That's like the center core piece. And then I have different arms going out for each kind of different part of my business. So I have pattern designs as one. I have workshops as one. I have my coaching as one. I have templates and printables that I want to create as one, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got all these different arms. And then from each of those arms, then I break it down into the different pieces there, the different offers, the different things that I want to create, all that kind of stuff. And just keep breaking it down as far as I need it to. So some of them, go down much smaller than others. If you're watching the video version, here, I'll share my screen real fast. Actually, no, I'll just pull in a clip so you can see kind of what I'm looking at. Anyway, so then to organize it just visually, I just took the highlighter option thingy and colored so each different kind of tier has a different color. And then from there, once I got down to the lowest level, I broke down each of those things into like the tasks to, well, I only took like the things that I want to work on first. Broke down into the tasks of what needs to happen. And then I pulled all of those tasks over to the edge where I have another kind of map thing. It's a grid on prioritization for all of the things that I'm wanting to do. So it has like priority level horizontally. So it's a 9 square grid. So there's first column is low priority, middle column is medium priority, third column is high priority. Then the horizontal directions are, or going down vertically, is how much time it's going to require. So the top is high time, like a large time commitment, medium time commitment, and then a low time commitment. So then now I have these 9 different boxes. I organize each of my tasks into those boxes. So now I can say, okay, in the high priority column, maybe I only have a little bit of time. So I want to work on something that is a low time commitment and high priority so that I'm really working on the things that are most important first. Instead of maybe I might be in my head, what's top of mind could be something that's low priority and a medium time commitment. And that's not really the best use of my time. So super, super in love with that because I think prioritization is a really big thing for me, and I imagine for a lot of you creators as well. Just because we have so many ideas and we want to do it all. There's so many things. If you struggle with overwhelm or with struggling to know what to do next, I 100% recommend a prioritization technique, whether you want to use this or something else. So what I did for this was in ClickUp, you can look at their templates that they already have. So I used the priority matrix. They have a 2x2 priority matrix, and I just added a row and a column to it. So you just pull that in, and so much easier than just creating it yourself from the beginning. Yeah. So, like I said, I started with the mind mapping. Then I narrowed it down to this kind of big picture on a large scale. So this is like all of the parts of my business, so that I'm not saying, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is, um, historically, sometimes what I've done is I'm focused in on, okay, just the designing part of my business. Like, all right, I have 300 different design ideas. These are the top 20 that I want to focus on. And these 10 are my high priorities. And then I move on to the coaching side and I'm like, okay, these are the things that I'm needing to do. These 10 things are my high priority, et cetera, et cetera. So now, say I have 70 high priority tasks, that's not helpful, right? Now there's still a ton of stuff. That's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration in numbers. Let's say even I did 3 top priorities in each area. And let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I have 10 arms on my business in this mind map. So then I still have 30 high priority tasks. So pulling everything together into one spot is extremely helpful for me to not overbook myself and expect too much of myself, because historically I have planned everything out and I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be super realistic. I've got all this stuff going. And then what happens is that essentially I end up with 3 calendars stacked on top of each other. And now I have not realistic, because I essentially have what's realistic times 3. Um, so highly recommend doing that. This includes things like behind the scenes, back end stuff, maybe website edits, blog posts, podcast episodes, email list stuff, setting up freebies, creating a challenge, in addition to all of the things like creating a new collection, designing this pattern, um, creating a course, all sorts of different things. So if you struggle, if you have that same struggle as I do, then definitely recommend pulling everything into one place. And I really love that this mapping allows me to do that in a very visual way, where I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can see it all in one place, unlike pretty much anything physical. You can't really do that very well. So let me see. Like, if you're watching the video, this is, why is my video going out? There we go. Like, this is just my coaching page, all the ideas, and it's already very congested, very full, so many ideas, and that's just, one part of my business. So, yeah, I think this is a great solution for those of us who like to see everything out visual. I have still been going ahead and writing things out by hand, especially like, if the little one is sleeping right next to me and typing away at my computer is a little bit noisier. It's a lot easier to do it on the notebook. Or if like balancing the computer on one leg is harder. And so then I'm like holding him in one arm and writing, whatever. Anyway, I've been writing out some of my ideas if getting on the computer doesn't feel easy, and then I just transfer them over once I have the ability to do so. Alrighty, so then from there, and FYI, like that can be a huge project. You don't necessarily have to get all of that done first. I would recommend like starting uh like the foundations of that, so you can see, okay, these are all the parts of my business. And these are this is a start of ideas of the things that I'm really wanting to work on. And then you don't have to do the whole prioritization for all of them. There's actually on mine quite a few tasks that I have just below my grid right now that I have not yet prioritized. Another thing, if you're listening to the audio, for my prioritization matrix, I color coded. So um, there's one color that's for pattern stuff. There's one color for coaching stuff. There's one color for membership stuff. One color for courses and template stuff. So that I have an idea of, okay, I'm pulling in all of these different arms of my business. I'm not just hyper focusing on designing patterns or something like that, as I'm actually pulling my tasks and working on things. Okay, now for actual goals, um, I if you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, you probably know that I'm not a huge fan of like these number goals. I think that tracking numbers is extremely valuable. It helps us to know what's working, what's not working, all that kind of stuff. I don't find a lot of connection with number goals. So, like, oh, I want to get to 30,000 followers on Instagram, just does not, like, sure, that sounds like cool and great and wonderful, but it doesn't resonate with me in a way that it like brings me motivation to actually work towards that thing. There's not a lot of meaning behind it. So instead, my goals really are not number focused. My goals are really focused on what am I wanting to get done and how am I going to do that. So I started by just outlining goals for the three keys of marketing, what we need to be working on all the time, which is lead generation, building trust, or like customer, not customer, audience. What's that word? Anyway, cultivating your audience, and then making sales. So I took those three categories. I said, okay, how am I going to work on each of these on a big level this year? How am I going to bring in leads? How am I going to build trust with those people that enter my audience or that are already in my audience? And how am I going to sell to them? And then I created goals on what do I actually want to do? What do I want to create this year? What patterns do I want to create? What courses do I want to create? What freebies do I want to create? All of that kind of stuff. And then those things really kind of intertwined, like got connected with each other because the things that I want to create for lead magnets are part of how I want to bring people in, right? And then the things that I want to create to sell, that's part of selling to my audience. So then I just did big, super, super big picture. All right, so these are the things that I want to create. This is how I'm going to market to my audience. This is how I'm actually going to sell stuff. And I laid out big picture steps. How am I actually going to achieve those goals? So I can actually tell you what those were. So number one was be super duper uber clear. That's actually what I wrote in my notebook. Get super duper uber clear on my messaging. Because as you'll see in the next episode, I am changing things a little bit. My audience, my ideal audience is changing a little bit. What I offer is changing a little bit. I guess you've already seen some of that. I've told you about the coaching changes. I told you about the membership changes. I told you about the free community. All of those things. So just make sure that I'm super clear on those things, because if I'm not super clear, it makes it really hard to, know how to talk about the things that you've created. Makes it super hard to pitch to, like, say I want to be on another podcast. Makes it really hard to like be like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I want to share. This is the value that I can provide your audience, that kind of thing. So being super duper clear on the messaging was the first important step. Second important step was establish trust. So this is really going back to how I'm doing all of the things. And then, I outlined a few different bullet points for each of these things. Third thing was grow my audience. Oh, wait, this is really just the keys of marketing, those three focus points that we always need to have, and then launching and selling. So those were the important steps. And then something that I think was super key for me, this. So actually, I'm recording this the day after the Super Bowl. I worked through this part, these important steps in taking action during the Super Bowl. It was a time when little one had gone down for bed. My partner was occupied watching the Super Bowl. So I had some time where I knew, okay, I have a couple of hours right now where I can sort of be present and sort of be really working on business stuff. So I started taking action right away. I started diving into each of these pieces instead of being like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, future me. Like, no, this is what I'm going to start thinking about right now. So I outlined, all right, what is my messaging? Who do I serve? What do I provide? How do I serve them? What are the focuses here? And then I dove into, okay, how am I going to establish trust? What are these three things? Not three, free. Like one of my things is I want to provide value for free to people. So what are the exact things that I'm going to create? I brainstorm details on those, all of that kind of stuff. And then like free challenges that I want to host this year and outline the details for each of those. And I actually assigned dates. So this is the only thing where I really have dates for any of my goal setting stuff is these events that I'm hosting for community members. So other people are involved. I posted them already all inside of the creative thread, the free community. So everyone already has it on the calendar. And it's just something that, all right, I've established these dates. It's something that I don't have to have hanging over my head. I don't have to be thinking for the next while, like, oh, I still need to schedule that. I still need to schedule. I still need to schedule that. No, I just went ahead and did it while I had the time. And a note on that is this year, I'm really like, I don't know. I still haven't figured out how to show up at a certain schedule. Like I'm a little bit leery of scheduling a lot of live stuff. Like, what if we end up sick? What if he's teething? What if like he's not gonna cooperate while I'm on these lives every single day? So for now, my plan is I can pre-record the videos, I can schedule the posts out, I can interact, in the comments live, but I don't have to do everything live. And that's like I'm prioritizing doing the thing rather than it looking a very specific way. That's a very big thing for me this year. Alrighty. So then my oh, okay, yeah. That was laying out the big picture steps and start working on those right away. Scheduled the free events. Yeah, I'm just going through my notes real quick to make sure I got everything right there. And yeah, less pressure for making things look a certain way. What I would love to do is, okay, I'm going to go live every single day of these challenges, but I've scheduled 12 free challenges. So that's 3 times 12, 36 days of going live. It feels like a lot to commit to right now when I'm not really sure what my workflow situation really is with a little one. So, okay. And then from there, I just went big picture income. How much money am I wanting to make? What do I want my profit to be? This isn't something that I'm super tied to, but it gives me a idea of what I'm heading towards. So this was the part where I really reflected back on the past years. For me this year, I didn't feel like I needed to do a lot of reflecting because I knew, okay, last year this is kind of what my income looked like. This is what my profit looked like. And for the most part, I didn't do a whole lot in my business. I wasn't very present. Um, I know why these numbers kind of look that way. There wasn't a whole lot that I felt like I really needed to reflect on because I was pretty clear about what happened, why it happened, and what I wanted to do differently this year. Um, if, yeah, I guess if you haven't already gone through that mental process, reflecting is always a good idea. It gives you clarity on what's happened in the past, what do I want to do differently, how do I want to move forward. Okay, so then from my big picture income, I broke it down into, all right, what have over the last 5 years, what have my numbers been for each of the big categories of sales in my business? To give me an idea of, okay, what actually feels reasonable, what feels um, like I can reasonably reach these kinds of numbers. And added that up, compared it to what my actual income was. Um, like that, I wanted the actual income goal. And I and then looked at the difference there to know if it was reasonable or not. And then what I did was I broke down each of those sales categories. So like I have pattern sales, membership sales, affiliate sales, and then my 52 weeks of creativity sales. And broke those all down into how am I going to get money from these things? So, is it from a certain freebie? Is it from one of the challenges? Is it from a launch? Is it from blog posts? Is it from my weekly emails? Is it from my podcast? Um, and I saw a lot of overlap there, which I felt like was a really good thing. I've been seeing a lot of, as I've been going through all these different goals, seeing a lot of patterns and like, okay, I really want to focus on these certain kinds of freebies and sell my product through that. So, yeah. Uh, so then again, I went back to, all right, taking all of these things on how I want to sell. Um, how does this all break down? How am I bringing in new people? How am I building trust? How am I selling? So really, I've gone back to that theme, I don't know, what, 4 times now in this planning process. And I don't know. I'm really happy with that. I'm really loving that kind of theme because I think it helps make it more realistic and reasonable when we're thinking about um, those the like the client burn customer buying journey, how people are getting into your funnel and how you're actually selling to them. So, and then from there, I was just able to go into my my quarterly sort of planning. I didn't go super detailed, or I haven't, at least so far. But I do have like a quarterly focus to try to achieve my goals as efficiently and logically as possible to really do things in an order that makes sense. So, like Q1 has been more like the foundations. I want to work on those freebies, not necessarily the challenges, but the building some of the behind the scenes stuff. And then Q2 is more about getting things out into the world, gaining that increasing audience, all that kind of stuff. If you're feeling really good about your business foundations, everything behind the scenes, all of your website stuff, your email funnels, your freebies, all of that stuff, you don't need to make that a focus. Do what makes sense for your business. And those are absolutely like those three things are things that we typically want to be focused on or at least know that it's going on every single month, every single quarter, so that we know, all right, we're bringing in new people, whether that's from podcasts, whether that's from Pinterest, whether that's from social media, whether that's from referrals. And then I'm cultivating that audience through maybe podcast episodes, through weekly email, through social media posts, through YouTube videos. And anyway, you get the idea. And then selling to people. So we want to always have those three things going on. But this year, I have been wanting to kind of revise some of those lead generation things in my business for several years. And so this year I'm like, okay, I'm just going to make it my focus for the first quarter. And then quarterly content topics so that I kind of know what I'm going to be talking about each quarter. To me, that makes content creation so much easier to just know, like, okay, this is what I'm working on. This is how everything kind of becomes cohesive, so it makes sense to my audience. If you haven't noticed, I haven't always been so great about that here on the podcast, because I have so many things. I'm like, oh, I just want to do this, and this. So this year, after these next couple of episodes, I am trying to actually make it more cohesive and about a certain topic. So I have my content topic for the rest of Q1, and then I outlined the weekly topics or bi-weekly, like every other week, depending on what my content schedule is, for the rest of the quarter, and then I started into Q2. So yeah, that is how I have been planning for the year. I guess date-wise, I started the mind mapping back in December. So this has been 2 months of quote unquote planning. I haven't been super focused on the planning because I've been more focused on getting work done. I knew that some of this planning stuff was going to take a bit of mental energy. It's going to take a bit of time. So I focused on, okay, I know that these things are my high priority stuff already, so I'm going to work on those things. And then once I had some more time again to work on planning, I worked on that. So big picture ideas, not waiting for perfection, just taking action. Not so focused on deadlines, just making progress. Not so focused on numbers, just doing the things. And then on a weekly, daily level, taking a look at the priorities, breaking those down into, okay, what are my top 3 focuses for this week? What are the things that I'm actually going to get done? And something that I want to do, I have not yet done. Sorry, I'm starting to talk faster because little one is awake. I want to break down like kind of my typical tasks that I'm working on. So maybe it's designing a pattern, maybe it is writing an email newsletter, maybe it is recording a podcast, taking those kinds of things, assigning like how long does this usually take me, and then having like these little buckets of like, okay, if I have 5 minutes, these are things that I can work on. If I have 20 minutes, these are things that I can work on. And then like these are things that I can only work on if I have an hour or more, things like that. So that is what is going on here, planning wise. Again, really kind of just going with the flow, trying to figure out what's most important to me, not only in these actual tasks, but also in how I'm going about my planning. What is most important to me about the planning process? What do I really need right now? What I really need is focus, direction, and to know what my priorities are so that I actually know what to do when I have time to actually do something. So I hope this was super valuable to you. I hope it gave you a little bit of inspiration of like different ways that you might change up your planning. Feel free to follow this process exactly as I have if you would like to, but feel free to also make it entirely your own already. I'm excited to chat with you on the next episode, all about some new branding and what to expect here on the podcast and the business in general. All right, talk to you later. Wow, thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful for me and means the world to me. Chat soon.